Emmert International was contracted by a boiler manufacturer to offload two boilers from road transport systems in a horizontal position, then rotate 90 degrees to a vertical position. This was required so the fabricator could completely assemble each boiler prior to delivering to the customer. This process would save the customer valuable time and money. Each boiler was 57 feet 3 inches by 27 feet 2 inches by 16 feet and weighed in at 420,000 pounds. The transporters would deliver the boilers to the gantry, and after being removed from the trailer, they would be rotated to a vertical position. The challenges for this were addressed by Emmert's engineering team. For offloading, Emmert utilized its 700-ton gantry to lift each boiler and pull the trailers from underneath the boiler. Once the trailer was cleared from under the boiler, Emmert crews lowered the boiler onto blocks to ensure the boiler was level due to the 2% grade in designated work areas. After the boiler was set on blocks, the gantry was disassembled and repositioned for the uprighting procedure. For the uprighting and rotation portion of the lift, Emmert required the use of two legs of a 450-ton gantry to share the weight with the four legs of the 700-ton gantry. The length of the boiler required Emmert to use two custom 80-foot-long header beams with strategically placed gussets welded along the beam for strength, while limiting the beam deflection as the full weight of the boiler is transferred onto the beams during the lifting operation. Emmert's team placed 1-inch steel road plates on the ground to guarantee a solid foundation under the gantry. Next, the Emmert team set the gantry track on top of the plates in predetermined locations and began moving the gantry legs and all the header beams for final setting. Emmert's team first set each of the four 700-ton gantry legs on the track with two legs on either side of the boiler. Emmert crews then placed a 10-foot header beam across each leg, which was orientated parallel to the gantry tracks. Next, the Emmert team set up the 450-ton gantry legs with one on each side of the existing 700-ton track in the same orientation as the 700-ton, then placed an 80-foot header across the two 450-ton legs. Emmert crews repeated the process by placing the second 80-foot header beam on top and center of the headers previously placed on the four 700-ton gantry legs. After the lift system was constructed, the 700-ton gantry legs were at 64 feet 3 inches apart, while the 450-ton gantry placed just inside the 700's track in the same orientation with a leg spread of 72 feet 11 inches apart. This would allow for the two separate systems to pass each other without interference at the top of the lift, and for setting the boiler in the vertical position after the rotation was completed. This phase of the rotation required all 6 gantry legs to lift at the same time and speed. The boiler was lifted to allow 4 feet of distance between the gantry and the ground while rotating. Once the proper elevation was achieved, Emmert used the 700-ton gantry to perform the main lift, and the 450-ton gantry would tail the boiler for stability while reducing the load on the 700-ton system. This process required 2 gantry operators to communicate not only with each other, but also the men on the ground spotting and checking for clearance and confirming proper load orientation on each of the gantry legs. To perform the actual rotation, the 450-ton gantry propelled towards the 700-ton gantry, while the 700-ton gantry was lifting the boiler. Once the operation for the first boiler was completed, Emmert reset the gantry equipment adjacent to the first boiler and repeated the process without issue. All operations were safely and successfully executed under the care, custody, and control of Emmert International.